Today, I'll be breaking down the political and global economic cost of the United States and Israel's attack on Iran and its impact of the Middle East region, as well as how this impact is far-reaching and detrimental to economies globally. As of 15:30 UTC on March 4, 2026, the Middle East has entered a state of total war following the initiation of coordinated military campaigns by the United States, Operation Epic Fury, and Israel, Operation Roaring Lion, on February 28, 2026. The conflict, now in its fifth day, marks the most significant escalation in the region since the 1991 Gulf War, characterized by a distinct strategic objective: the total decapitation of the Islamic Republic's leadership and the neutralization of its nuclear and ballistic capabilities. Intelligence confirms the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, along with Iran's defense minister and the chief of staff of the armed forces, in a precision strike on a leadership compound in Tehran during the operation's opening salvo. Primary targets include the Natanz nuclear facility, status struck, leakage unconfirmed, IRGC command and control centers, ballistic missile launch sites in Kermanshah and Tabriz, and air defense batteries. Iran has devolved command to lower-level IRGC officers, launching over 2,000 drones and 500 ballistic missiles targeting Tel Aviv, U.S. bases in Al Udeid, Qatar, and the UAE, and U.S. diplomatic compounds in Saudi Arabia. Brent crude has surged past dollars per barrel, with intraday spikes threatening the $100 threshold. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed to commercial traffic due to prohibitive insurance premiums and active engagement, freezing 20% of global oil supply and 30% of LNG exports, primarily Qatari. Global equities are reeling. The Dow Jones Industrial Average shed 400 points on March the 3rd, following an initial 1,200-point plunge. Israel's economy is bleeding approximately 9 billion shekels, over $2 billion, weekly due to mobilization and shutdowns. Major logistics firms have suspended Red Sea and Persian Gulf routes, triggering a flash crisis in global shipping rates comparable to the 2021 supply chain collapse. My analysis: what the mainstream media is not telling you. The elimination of Ali Khamenei is not a tactical victory. It is a strategic gamble of historical magnitude. The mainstream narrative suggests this decapitation will lead to the swift collapse of the theocratic regime. This is a dangerous oversimplification. History, specifically the lessons of post-2003, Iraq dictates that power vacuums in sectarian fault lines are rarely filled by liberal democracies. By removing the central totem of the Velayat-e-Faqih, the U.S. and Israel have likely fractured the Iranian command structure into autonomous, radicalized warlord fiefdoms. We are no longer fighting a state. We are fighting a decentralized insurgency armed with ballistic missiles. The IRGC is not just a military branch. It is a conglomerate with deep economic tentacles. They will not surrender. They will go underground, turning Iran into a supersized insurgency state that makes the Taliban look like a municipal council. We are witnessing a compressed version of the 30 Years' War transposed onto the 21st century. The disintegration of centralized control in Tehran invites not just internal chaos, but the external partitioning of influence, a modern Sykes-Picot carved out by drone warfare rather than diplomats. The global markets are currently pricing in a conflict risk premium, but they are failing to price in the structural rupture of the energy trade. The era of the Strait of Hormuz as a reliable global artery is over. Even if the kinetic phase of this war ends in weeks, the insurance markets have permanently re-rated the Persian Gulf. We are looking at a structural increase in energy costs that will act as a regressive tax on the entire global economy. This is the death knell for the soft landing Western central banks were engineering. Inflation will not just tick up, it will rip higher, fueled by supply-side shocks that interest rates cannot tame. The EU and East Asia, China, Japan, South Korea, their energy security is shattered. China's passivity, non-factor status, is a strategic feint. They are quietly securing discounted Russian flows while the West bleeds capital stabilizing the Gulf. U.S. defense primes and North American energy producers. This conflict is the greatest marketing campaign for U.S. LNG and shale oil in history. The geopolitical premium on secure molecules from the Permian Basin just doubled. The Trump administration's Operation Epic Fury is not just about Iran, it is a message to Beijing. By demonstrating the willingness to unilaterally decapitate a sovereign adversary's leadership, the U.S. is reestablishing a doctrine of hyper-deterrence. The message is clear. Economic entanglement does not guarantee immunity. The U.S. has signaled that it is willing to tolerate short-term economic pain, oil spikes, for long-term strategic dominance. This forces China to accelerate its decoupling strategies, likely pushing forward its timeline for Taiwan to secure its own unsinkable aircraft carrier before the U.S. war machine pivots east. Putin is the silent beneficiary. With Western resources diverted to the Middle East and oil prices soaring, the pressure on the Russian war economy eases. The axis of upheaval, Russia, Iran, North Korea, has taken a hit, but Russia will likely step in to scavenge the remains of Iran's military-industrial complex, securing drone tech and missile stockpiles in exchange for regime survival guarantees for the remaining IRGC elite. While defense contractors pop champagne, the global working class is about to be crushed. The immediate spike in fuel costs will cascade into food prices via fertilizer and transport costs within 90 days. We are facing a K-shaped conflict outcome. The asset class hedges with gold, crypto, and defense stocks. They remain insulated. The wage class faces a dual assault of inflation and potential recession-induced layoffs as global trade slows. Expect a summer of discontent in 2026 as energy subsidies become fiscally unsustainable for European and Asian governments. Austerity measures will trigger civil unrest reminiscent of the Arab Spring, but located in Paris, Berlin, and Seoul. Iran ceases to exist as a unitary functioning state. It fractures into ethnic enclaves, Kurdish West, Balucha Southeast, Azeri North, with a residual Persian-run state in Tehran, controlled by a military junta, backed by either Russia or a desperate coalition of surviving mullahs. In the chaos of regime collapse, loose nukes or loose scientists become the world's primary security threat. Saudi Arabia and Turkey will initiate crash course nuclear weapons programs to deter the chaotic fallout next door, effectively ending the non-proliferation era. This conflict will be viewed by historians as the shock that finally broke the world's addiction to Middle Eastern oil, not out of climate altruism, but out of national survival. Heavy investment in localized nuclear fusion and decentralized renewables will accelerate, rendering the Persian Gulf a strategic backwater by the mid-2030s, left to rot in its own sectarian conflicts.